Welcome back to Taiwan Outlook. Joining us today is Secretary General of EU Studies Association, Taiwan chapter, Dr.吴志中. Dr. Wu, we've been talking about the expansion of EU. And what's the current relationship between Taiwan and EU?
Currently, in economic size, Taiwan is the fourth trade partner of European Union in Asia. And it is very, very important. The first one is China, of course. The second one is Japan, and the third one is South Korea, and immediately is Taiwan. So, in concerning the economic trade relation, Taiwan is a very, very important partner of European Union. And if you put Taiwan in the world, we are about the 10 to 12 economic partner of European Union. And we look, now we have about 200 countries in the world, and we are the 10th economic partner of Europe. So Taiwan plays a very, very important role as a trade partner of EU. And for the political relation, of course, now the European Union don't recognize Taiwan, but they still send their representation here in Taiwan. And if you consider the size of their representation, it is not a small embassy, so-called embassy. It's still a very, we cannot say very large, but it demonstrates the importance of Taiwan in the European foreign relation, European partner. How
many EU countries have their embassies or offices in Taiwan?
I don't know the exact number, but I think it's among 10 to 15 and to 20. So I mean, the majority power of EU all have their embassy in Taiwan. Of course, some new Eastern European countries still don't send their embassy here, but the majority of the European Union countries have their representation here in Taiwan.
Who are the major trading countries for Taiwan from EU?
Germany, for example, is our biggest one. Then the second is UK, and then we have France. So those big countries all have very good relation with Taiwan.
In addition to the trading relationship, how about investment? From both sides.
I just mentioned that the investment from EU in 2004 was the #1 in Taiwan. But it is true also that now so many EU countries now invest in China. So even they are #1 here, but we don't represent a very big amount of EU investment. It's about 1% to 2% of EU foreign investment. So I think it's a global problem of Taiwan trade relation with other major countries. But I think it's still very important, very significant to find that the EU in 2004 is the first foreign investor in Taiwan. And in 2005, they are the third one. They are replaced by the US and Japan.
With the EU continuing to expand, do you think it's getting easier for Taiwan to invest or to trade with EU, or getting more difficult?
I think that for the moment, we cannot say so easy. I mean, so clear that it's easier or it's become very harder. If we don't invest in EU, because now they have their regionalism, of course, it's become difficult for foreign product to go inside. But a company like Acer, like Honghai, they invest a lot in the Czech Republic. So they also help their relation with other European countries. So it's two-way, I think. It's two-way. It's not, cannot say easier or become harder.
You are the Secretary General of the EU Studies Association in Taiwan. And one of your primary objectives is to increase the awareness of the local people's awareness of the EU. How do you think about the average people on the street, in Taiwan? How do they feel about EU, and do they know much about EU in general?
For European people who come to Taiwan, normally they have very good image about Taiwan, and they repeatedly saying that they want to come back to Taiwan. And for example, we receive also many European journalists. So in visiting Taiwan, they find that Taiwan is a very good place. But the problem is always the same thing, that not so many European people really know about Taiwan. you can have many different analyzers. But if something is very interesting, if we don't refer Republic of China to Taiwan, but we refer to Formosa, they give them some souvenir, and then they become to know where is Taiwan. So it's very mixed, but in majority, the European Union people have very good impression about Taiwan economic performance, political performance, and cultural performance.
How about the other way around? I mean, Taiwanese people's image or perceptions about EU.
Taiwanese people about EU is sometimes not so real, because from our side is that a romantic place, and it's a very good place to visit. But not so many people, for example, in Taiwan, consider European country as a good place to study, for example, scientific section. And in fact, for example, mathematics in France is very good. And you can look at that European, for example, the TGV, it means the very high-speed train, European information, even computer, the rocket, the space technology is also very, very good in Europe. So I think Taiwanese people also need to think that the European Union is not only a romantic place, it's not only a place to simply to visit, to play, but also is a place that they have very high technology and very good education, and is a place that we can invest and we can do business.
But as we know, many foreigners now doing business in Taiwan or living in Taiwan, they have been urging our government, Taiwan government, to open up to the Chinese market, to three links and so on. And AmCham, American Chamber of Commerce, and European Chamber of Commerce have stated their position that there should be three links, hopefully immediately. How do you respond to that kind of request from the European,
from Taiwan side? You mean when they make this kind of request? It's I think in the mind of European Union country, they don't really believe that they will have some real conflict between Taiwan and China, because they have, on the past, they have so many conflicts inside Europe, but now the success to create the peace. So they believe that Taiwan and China one day will find their way and to find a peaceful way to coexist. But it's not the same feeling from outside. So the history tell European people, our European friends, that we can have a better trade relation with China, and we don't need to have so afraid. But I think it's something that it will be, for the moment, difficult to convince our European friends that China really have a missile threat against Taiwan. And also, I think the most important thing that the European Union, European country have no military presence here. It's not just like the U.S. So for them, the threat is not so present. So I think it makes them to believe and to think that we can have, it's not a so big threat for them.
A quick follow-up, some people say that Europeans do not have military security interest in the region. They have only economic interest. Do you agree with that kind of statement?
I don't agree, because if you don't have security interest, how you can guarantee the economic interest? It just like again, I just mentioned it because the history told the European countries that normally it is we always can find some way to coexist with China. And another thing for them, Taiwan is not a small country. We pretend to be a small country, but if we compare to European, the majority of European countries, we are not a small country. So they believe that Taiwan can have the ability to not to conquer, but to prevent a conflict with China if we want to prevent the conflict. So those kind of reasons make a European country believe it depends really the will of Taiwan to have peace or not in the region.
But on the other hand, seeing the rise of China in the long run, are they, European countries, are they concerned about possible military imbalance in the Taiwan Strait, which could destabilize the situation?
I think they are very concerned. So we can find they have the armed embargo against China. And when they want, for example, recently they invite China to join the Galileo project, the GPS project, European version. Some people inside Europe are also very concerned and say they cannot cooperate with China. because China is potentially also a strategic threat for European countries. So I think their vision of China is also very complex, have not the same level of thinking about China.
European Union countries have been viewed as more human rights respecting countries. But in the past few years, Taiwan's efforts to join the WHO has not getting any support from the EU countries. How do you explain this kind of double standards?
I have been so many times in Europe to try to convince them to support Taiwan. And the most interesting thing is that every time you go to the civil side, I mean, you ask a specialist, you go to the media, and even you go to the Ministry of Health, you always got support to Taiwan. But the only way that you don't get support is the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And they said that this issue is linking with the one China policy that make them cannot support Taiwan. So again, I think we still didn't convince them to support us in a political level. But if you go to another way, you can really feel their real support to Taiwan because it concerns a human rights issue. But another thing I think that is very important is that also that Taiwan don't really make our image very clear I mean very clear or very good look in Europe. So it makes the European countries that in this deciding the foreign policy, they still think that Taiwan is really a part of China. I mean, in the text, we don't really claim the independence. So it's so many factors that make that now don't want to change their one China policy.
And you propose an alternative approach by Taiwan to participate meaningfully, meaningful participation of Taiwan in the WHO. Are you satisfied with this kind of solution to Taiwan's participation in the WHO?
No, I'm not satisfied. But the EU country always said because they have this policy, and it is they should respect the policy making by Europe, and they should respect their treaty making by China. So they cannot support us, but they can support our participation based on human right consideration. So it's a for the moment, I believe that we should really try to touch the one China policy of Europe to hope one day they will change something.
But as you say that European Union countries seems to have consensus on the so-called one China policy. How can we break or bend the so-called one China policy?
I believe that we should try by small country. By small European country, because small European countries normally have not so big interest with China. But unfortunately, those small countries traditionally have not a traditional relation with Taiwan. The only one who have a traditional relation with Taiwan is Holland. But other, for example, Nordic country, just ask how many people in Taiwan can speak their language. It's so few. And they don't really know because they are also very far from Taiwan. And our trade relation is not so good. Of course, we still have trade relation, but it's not so limited. So I think if we can continue to convince to work on this kind of country, because they have no so big interest with China, and their policy is also based on human right thinking. I believe one day that we can convince them to support Taiwan, and that we can break the one China policy of Europe.
But isn't that true that the EU policy has been based upon the so-called consensus policy? On this, you can create another consensus, represent the old one. The old one will continue to be there, right?
But when you break the consensus, you create a space to create a new one. And that is what strategic we need to do for the moment.
Okay, Dr. Wu, you have been studying and living in France for 10 years. When we come back, we will talk about French politics at this moment in time, and also talk about the bilateral relationship between Taiwan and France. And we'll be back in a few moments. Stay with us.